I think Queen has more songs that I am. So again, I think this maybe is personal preference, but I know way more Queen songs, way more. It's not even close. Not even close.
Then,
Like,
then, then we're about to have a real problem with the party in the back.
yeah.
That's right. Promo UPFront. Party in the pit. The mullet. A full podcast.
Kirby used to work on the docks. Union's been on strike. He's down on his luck. It's tough. So tough. Oh, and that is absolutely how we're going to kick off the Triple Deuce episode of the Promo UPFront podcast. That's right, episode number 222. I am one of your hosts, Bill Petrie. With me, as always, let's call him the piper at the gates of dawn, the one and only Kirby Hasseman. Kirby! I know you're not working at the dock, so how the hell are you?
I'm doing pretty well, man. As I think you know, I got out of town just for a couple days. Aim and I went down south just to get out of the zip code for a little bit, and we timed it very well. The weather was great down there, and then it is that quintessential fall here, where it's crisp and cool, like 48 degrees this morning, going to be 70 and sunny this afternoon. I'm like, this is not generally what I think of with fall, but this is, I understand why people love days like, and really the weeks like this. So I'm doing well, man. How about you?
I'm doing good. Off the road for a while, which is kind of nice. And this is my time of year. I do love autumn. And I'm fortunate to live in a very, very bizarre section of the United States where what you just described, that mid 50s at night, low 70s during the day, we get about 5 to 6 weeks of this during the fall and in the spring. We truly get all 4 seasons here. We don't get pummeled with one season as a predominant weather pattern. So I love this time of year. Today I think it's going to be 73 or 74. It's going to be beautiful here in Nashville. But you know what? It got me to thinking about how we all plan ahead, and the importance of planning ahead. And, you know, Kirby, it also is important to plan ahead if you want to stand out.
Yeah.
It really is, especially in an industry where so often the competition is selling the same products from the same suppliers, all that stuff. We've talked about that. Well, thankfully, we've got a solution for you. Instead of just putting a logo on a product, how about showing your clients some completely kick-ass branded merchandise? Kirby, you know what I'm talking about, the type of merchandise that elicits that wow and aha moment we love to get from clients, and you know what I'm talking about. Kirby, I implore you. I implore you. I don't implore very often, but I'm going to go ahead and implore today. Look no further than our pals over at Seven Sourcing, because they are the experts in the field. They work with distributors to help them source custom orders from fully vetted overseas factories, and that's without having to deal with the factory themselves. Seven Sourcing has an extraordinarily strong pedigree when it comes to navigating custom direct merch sourcing, as their team has over a quarter century of successful importing experience. Now, even better, Kirby, they work directly with each distributor on brand strategy, product development, product sourcing, order management, quality control, compliance, and logistics. In other words, they completely demystify direct custom sourcing. And while they source merchandise at the lowest possible cost, they don't sacrifice quality or safety to meet price points. Seven Sourcing isn't interested in meeting expectations. They only strive to succeed them. Not succeed, but they want to succeed, but to exceed them. And that comes from Russ Mogel and his team. Now, Kirby, this is a tremendous opportunity for distributors to wow their clients with fully custom merchandise now, isn't it?
It totally is. And I think that for me, whenever I hear about this, this is above my skis. Like doing the custom overseas, I hear people that they want to try and do it themselves, and that just feels like a recipe for disaster. And so having a trusted partner like this is the only way I would do projects like that.
100% Kirby. As you can imagine, I completely agree, especially since I wrote the spot myself. Of course I agree. It takes a little bit longer. It takes an average order of 75 days or so, but isn't that extra planning worth it to get that wow moment? Kirby and I sure as hell think so. So when you're ready to turn your next fantastic idea into something something a little more, something that becomes truly a part of an iconic brand, reach out to Seven Sourcing at sales@sevensourcing.com. Now, Kirby, you have the honor of having the upfront portion of the podcast today. I don't want to dilly. Sure as hell don't want to dally, and I'm not going to combine the two either. I'd like to get right into it. So, Kirby, what's your first topic today?
So I've gone back and forth because there's a couple we're going to get to, but I think I want to start with the event that you were just at.
LDC.
LDC and emerging leaders.
Yeah.
And the reason really, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but it was cool to, because obviously you were there. I knew you were going to be there. But then my youngest daughter was there, and she went to the expo this year, and she's been to a couple industry events, but this was, I don't know, kind of a solo run for her first time going to one of these events without the team and without me. And she came back uber fired up, and it reminded me of why events like this are good. And you two were on a panel together, and I just want to give you the floor and just say, how did you enjoy the event? But more importantly, like, talk to me about that panel, because I got to hear a lot about that, and so I wanted to get your take on it.
I'd like to know what you heard about the panel. We'll talk to. So, for those of you who don't know, LDC is put on by PPAI. Man, we love our acronyms in our industry. LDC stands for Leadership Development Conference. Now, if you've ever volunteered for a regional association, there was a time where PPAI put something on called Leadership Development Workshop. This is kind of the next evolution of that. And as part of Leadership Development Conference, or LDC, brought in the emerging leaders, which really was comprised of the Rising Star list and a few other people as well, some people like Jade. And so they combined the two. They had two tracks. They had the regional association track. They had the emerging leaders track, and they intersected quite often during the event. But there was some great education, some great speakers. Had the opportunity to see our mutual friend Sam Cabert. He was a speaker there. Had lunch with Sam. Was able to see him speak a little bit. And some of the other speakers as well. Some great content, as there always is. But it's like what we say about every event. The thing you remember more than anything else, for the most part, is the networking. And there are some great opportunities to network. Hopefully people don't remember my karaoke singing. So I had to kick off karaoke, and I did it with Billy Idol's Rebel Yell, one of my signature
that's right.
songs. I put in air quotes. I tell you what I loved about it, and then I'll get to the panel. What I loved about overall is the energy. The energy was fantastic, and there were so many emerging leaders, and boy, what that I mean is younger people. And I don't feel old, but the truth is I'll be 55 next month. You don't feel old. I think you're 51 now, or almost 51, or you're right
50.
around there.
Yep.
I said almost 51. Relax.
No, I said I'm
vain
50.
on me.
I'm just saying, it's how old I am.
But that stuff energizes me. And so I was part of a panel talking about communication between generations and leading people between generations. We had a millennial, and Alex Pascal from Warwick. We had a Gen Zer, and Jade, who acquitted herself so well on stage. I think I sent you a text after the panel. She really did great. And then I was the Gen X guy, and I thought, it was a little surreal thinking that, boy, it doesn't seem too long ago that Gen X was the middle generation, and the young generation was millennials, and the old generation were the baby boomers. So the panel, we talked about strategies, and I'd like to hear what Jade shared with you. Alex, if you don't know Alex Pascal from Warwick, he is definitely a millennial, but he's an old soul. So he definitely has some very old school ways of thinking, which I love.
Interesting.
Jade is very much Gen Z and brings such effervescence and light and energy to the proceedings, but she's also very respectful because you raised her to be open to other ideas from different generations. And she clearly articulated that. And I think the value I brought to the panel was I might be on the older side. Let's call it the losing side of 55. But I have always surrounded myself with younger people. I have always made it a point to hire skew younger. And because I always view things I want to continually learn. I don't feel old
Yeah.
because I'm continually learning. I'm
Yeah.
continually seeking more in terms of knowledge. And I think when you stop learning, that's when you become set in your ways.
Yeah.
And this is the way we've always done it, and so on and so forth. So, having said that, had quite a few people come up after that. That panel really opened their eyes to how to communicate with different generations. And, I used my example, which I've used before. If I want to communicate with my kids, I use Snapchat. I don't like Snapchat. I don't
Yeah.
care for it, but it's not my kids' job to ignore the technology and the things they grew up with to placate me.
Right.
So I shared a little bit of that, and Jade, of course, shared your and hers absolute affection for Marco Polo, which is, you can describe that if you want. It's a video, kind of a
Yep.
video messaging service. It just doesn't disappear.
Right. It's like
And so,
Snapchat with a longer form, and it doesn't go away. Yep.
correct.
Yep.
So the overall conference, PPAI, of course, knocked it out of the park. Lindsay Davis, JGR, Jill Began, that team just absolutely, nailed it.
Yeah.
And so they should be very proud of the event. There's always a challenge when you change an event that people knew,
Yeah,
which was
yeah.
LDW. So I'm going to stop yammering now. I'd like to
No, it's
hear
good.
your perspective from what Jade reported to you.
Yeah, I'll be quick because obviously I wasn't there. You should be talking more about it. You were there. She said that okay, couple things, because she got home yesterday, and then we sat around the dinner table and kind of went through her notes because I wanted to hear while it was fresh in
Right.
her mind. I think that the things that I would take away was, like, she started surrounding herself at this event with people who pushed her that were not me. Right. Like, and I think that surrounding yourself, the old saying is that you are the average of the 5 people you spend time with. And when you elevate those 5 people, all of a sudden you elevate yourself in a really quick
Yeah.
way. I mean, all of a sudden she's coming back and going, okay, I need to work on my 3 and 5 year plan. And I think maybe I can take on this other role. And I'm like, okay. And it was funny because she would say something that, like, Kara or you or, JGR or whoever would say to her. And I would just be like this. And she'd go, I know, you've said that. But hearing it in a different way from a different voice, it happens to all of us. And so I love every opportunity when that happens. And I was super tickled she was there. Her takeaway from, or one of her takeaways from the panel was that those different levels of communication. And she said that you guys had a good conversation around boundaries, about setting boundaries around communication, and especially when you work from home, and some of the conversations that she and I have had. And she said that when she said that she doesn't have email on her phone, and that you'd mentioned that you've taken it off of yours, and she said people were like, what? And so I thought that was interesting. I wanted to get your little take on that little piece of it.
Yeah, no, it was, and I think I don't think people were surprised Jade didn't have it on her phone. Now, she explained how she did have it on her phone, and it kind of made her anxious and I don't say nervous. That's not fair, but certainly increased her anxiety. She was working too late, working too much, because she never got away, so she deleted it from her phone. And then when I said, to quote you, it's interesting. I said, I actually have recently done that as well, because I found myself not present in situations because my phone would light up. So I've taken almost all the notifications off my phone. I don't need to know. Unless it's a text message or a phone call, I generally don't get notifications. You want to know why? I'll check it at a time of my choosing.
Yeah.
And I think people looked at me like, you're 54. What are you doing? You've got a business to run. And I explained my whole concept, which I wrote a blog this week, of non-time and no one. And
yes.
how important it is to get away from your business. And we all feel, and especially distributors feel, if I am not hyper responsive, my client's going to go to my competition because I don't have anything unique other than me and my responsiveness, maybe my creativity, and so on and so forth. And I said, the problem I think we have established is we have allowed people to take these devices, these cell phones, and instead of it for being our convenience, it's for everybody else's convenience. It's time we take that back. And then I walked through what I do to mitigate that. And it's, this, I do a weekly report every Monday for every client. They get exactly what I have done and my team have done for the week. Here's what we did last week. Here's what we're going to do this week. Here's some things I need some feedback from you on. Here's some things on the horizon. It eliminates a bunch of emails. It absolutely eliminates meetings. And my clients feel like I am on it and they can look at a snapshot and it gets in their inbox by 7 a.m. Monday morning. I don't care what day it is,
Yeah.
they get it. And it's taking communication back and making it work for us.
Yeah.
And one of the last things I'll add, and I know you have something to say.
No.
One of the things I really appreciate about Gen Z and what I've learned from my kids, who are, they're 21, they'll be 22 in a few weeks. They're about to enter the workforce. I was raised to be loyal to companies. You're going to go to college, you're going to get a job, you're going to work there for 30 years, you're going to get your gold watch, retire, and head to Florida. I served companies well, and I very rarely got paid back for that. I was rewarded with downsizing. I was rewarded with extra work because I was good at doing work. I was rewarded with being passed over for promotions that I felt, I was deserving of. All these things. And my career's gone like this, up and down, just like anybody else's. I love Gen Z's approach to work. And it's, I work to live. I do not live to work. They look at work as a transaction. I provide you services, my time, my energy, my talents. You provide me money and benefits, and that is our relationship. And people were like saying, that's why Gen Z doesn't care. And I said, no, they do care. They just understand it's more about caring about what I do, and that will benefit the organization. It's self first, but doing the right things for myself absolutely benefits the entity I work for.
Yeah. Well, that's what, again, it's the old thing that they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first on the airplane, because if you are not taking care of yourself, it's a funny thing. I think it's something that Jade struggled with, especially when she first started working and she was exclusively from home. And I'd be on the phone with her and be like, Jade, go for a walk. Get away. And so, because again, you're not at your best if you're not at your best. You know what I mean? So.
No, you've got to get away. And we don't do a good job at that because we can be as connected as we want. I think it's time to kind of take it back.
Yeah.
So,
cool. All right.
Hey, Kirby, many people know how to build a business, but truly few understand not only when to sell your business, but the process involved to ensure you find the right partner to maximize the return on your investment. Honestly, you need an expert, especially in the promotional products industry. You need that kind of an expert to help you, which is where our good pals over at Certified Marketing Consultants come in. Jamie Watson and her team have decades of experience facilitating private company sales in the branded merchandise space. To help you evaluate if it's time to sell your business, reach out confidentially to our good pals at CMC at info@certifiedmarketing.com for a confidential discussion today. All right, Kirby. I think we would be, and we say this often, we might be a little tone deaf if we didn't talk about the impact of Hurricane Helene. It really it seems like the majority of the impact, which I don't think anybody expected, was actually in the western part of North Carolina.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And Stephen McFadden, who is a friend of ours and a friend of the show from TSC, he has taken it upon himself to really galvanize some resources to get to those folks. Drove out to Morgantown, North Carolina to deliver water, over-the-counter medications, food, and things like that. Nice. Danny Rosen from Brand Fuel, the chief do-gooder in the industry and about to be incoming board chair for Promotional Products Association International. He's working in conjunction with the not-for-profit community to determine the best channels for a donation. So, he does warn against imposter GoFundMe pages, not only with, work only with vetted and reputable resources. We have a long history in this industry of helping when there's a natural disaster or there's a crisis of some sort. I saw it firsthand. I was in New York during 9/11. I lived about 12, 15 miles north of New York City. And I will tell you, in the days immediately after 9/11, I did see the industry, especially in that area, galvanize all the way up to Boston and Philadelphia. People emptied their showrooms. Here's clothing. Here's supplies and things like that. I love that. I don't really have any sort of question here. Like, do you agree that's a good thing to do? Well, of course you do.
Yeah.
I just think it's important to realize that sometimes, not sometimes, our industry is really, really good when there's a crisis, galvanizing taking the good things that we, the things that we have access to, the merchandise we have access to, and redeploying it to help others in need. So I think on behalf of Kirby, I don't want to speak for Kirby, but thank you to Stephen McFadden, Danny Rosen, and everybody else who have either, have done what they could do to help that situation.
Yeah, and I would say, so thank you for bringing that up and bringing attention to that. I'd say let's keep it up, like, because the challenges that area is facing is kind of mind-blowing, and it's not going to go away, right? And so I think one of the things that we have to kind of keep in mind and kind of keep bringing it to the forefront of like, okay, so how do we continue to help, whether that's ongoing donations or whatever. So yeah, Stephen, Danny, of course, it makes sense that they would be a part of leading that. But so thank you to you guys for doing that. And then, yeah, keep reminding us. Unfortunately, we all need reminded. So keep reminding us to push resources down that way.
I don't think people realize the hellscape that flooding does to an area and the amount of damage. I think it's just water, and it's filthy water. It's dirty water. The amount of damage it causes. It's like I said, a hellscape in Western North Carolina right now. So we'll keep them in our thoughts and prayers and do anything we can to help them. Didn't mean to bring everybody down, Kirby. Do you have another topic?
Yeah, this will bring us right back up.
All right.
Over 45,000 dock workers from Maine to Texas are hitting the picket line. Massive port strike. Again, sorry, but it's you talk about tone deaf. So this is a thing that, I don't know how you are, Bill, but I was like, oh, it's going to get worked out. Oh, it's going to get worked out. I was keeping my eye on it, but I'm like, I try not to get too worked up about things until they actually become a thing. So many times the 11th hour is when negotiations get sorted out. So I was paying attention to it, but it didn't. And so folks have hit the picket line. Obviously, in a business where we import things, this is going to have an impact. And so as soon as I heard your song this morning, I was like, okay, I know we're going to be talking about this. So we've talked about things like this in the past when it comes to supply chain, but what advice are you giving to folks right now?
Don't panic. Number one. This strike has been looming for months. And if you pay attention, the global you, they hadn't had any discussions. They had had no contact. The union and the governing body, the Dockworkers Association, whatever it is, they haven't had any contact since June. So this strike was going to happen. They did not have any conversations in the 9th hour, let alone the 11th hour.
Got it.
Now, here's the reality. If it gets resolved in the short term, let's say in the next 2 to 3 weeks, there will not be an impact, because my understanding is most suppliers in our industry, just like retail, they have stocked up. They have stuff for Christmas. They've been preparing for this by bringing imports in. If it extends, let's say into November, let's say if it lasts a month and extends into November, it could be crippling. I think the one thing we learned in COVID and during the pandemic is that when first of all, our world is held together with duct taped and baling wire. And when that goes awry, it takes a long time to get back to quote unquote normal. So, I'm not going to get into the whole, I think the dock workers are being a little ridiculous with their demands, to be honest with you. They've been offered a 50% raise. They are standing firm that they want to rule where there was zero automation at the docks, which is ridiculous. When you look at what they do in China, they have rows and rows of longshoremen or dock workers manipulating large machinery and things like that. So to me, I think the demand is ridiculous. But I'm not there. It's not impacting me, so it's very easy for me to say.
Sure.
So what I'm telling clients is, don't panic buy. There's already people who are running to Costco and getting toilet paper and all that stuff, which is stupid. I think just be cognizant of planning ahead. It's now more than ever. It's important to plan ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
What about
think
you? What are you telling your clients?
yeah. So today we're dropping a blog post to talk about it.
Mhm.
And it's really the things that we're telling people is what you would expect us to be saying.
Right.
Again, plan ahead, look at multiple options.
Right.
It's funny. I think back. I really probably could go back and look at a blog post I wrote in 2021 and just
Yeah, you
repost
could
it.
copy and paste that. Mhm.
I didn't. We're putting something new out there,
Yeah.
but yeah. And so I think that that's sort of we're viewing this so far as an opportunity to be that trusted partner, to be the communicator that says, hey, here's what's going on. We're going to keep you informed. We're going to be here for you during this challenging time. So that's the way that we're trying to
Yeah.
be proactive rather than, trying to get people freaked out so they buy, but to just say, hey,
Right.
these are the things that I see coming. And so that's sort of the tact that we're taking, is just try to be proactive and communicative. So that's sort of what we're doing.
Yeah. No, I think that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Well,
truly, I think it's the only thing one can do is you hope for the best, you plan for the worst.
yeah. And I think that the opposite to a degree of that, and I'll see most people, is just they'll ignore it. And
Yeah.
I think that's not great, because then it's like the folks who aren't paying attention will be suddenly surprised when there are challenges.
Yeah.
And if we've been communicating them all along, I just feel like that puts us in a better spot.
Yeah. Good conversation. I think
Okay.
we'll all just kind of bears watching. Kirby, we
Yeah.
have time for one more. We have time for one more, right?
Yeah. 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 Mhm.
Excellent. I'm going to introduce this with a second song today. How
Oh, okay.
exciting is that? Are
That
you
is,
ready, Kirby?
yeah. All right.
Money, it's a hit. Don't give me that do good bullshit. That's
Mhm.
right. Pink Floyd have sold their music catalog to Sony for
Oh,
$400 million.
wow. Okay.
So
I-
it's the recorded music, the band name, and artist likenesses. So that's going to give Sony the ability to do TV shows, like a miniseries, movies, merchandise, things like that. Sell the songs like for
mm,
the recorded versions of the songs for commercials. They only sold the recorded rights, so the things that have already been recorded, they still have the songwriting rights. The
mm,
four members of Pink Floyd, but the band name, all that is a part of Sony now. Now,
mm.
here's what I find interesting.
Okay.
I would consider Pink Floyd one of the top 10 rock bands just from a historical perspective, what they mean, what they followed. Now, I would put Queen in the top 20, maybe the top 10. I don't know. Queen recently sold their rights to Sony. How much do you think Queen sold for?
Well, just based on the way you couched the question, I'm gonna guess it was for more. So 500 million. I don't know.
One billion dollars, which seems
Wow.
I figured it'd
Mm,
be commensurate, right? Close to each
mm.
other, but yeah, not so much. So
I,
I wanted to get your thoughts as we've
mm,
seen people like Bruce Springsteen, Willie Nelson sell their music catalog as they kind of enter their golden years, for lack of a
yeah.
better term.
Yeah. So a couple thoughts. Number one, I think Queen has more songs that I am. So again, I think this maybe is personal preference, but I know way more Queen songs, way more. It's not even close. Not even close.
Then, then,
Like,
then we're about to have a real problem with the party in the back.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's very possible. I mean, I know Pink Floyd a little, but I
Okay.
know way more Queen songs. So that doesn't really surprise me that they would sell it for more, because I just
Right.
know more about it. I think it's interesting in the sense that on one side, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool, because all of a sudden that you can somehow profit, still maintain
Yeah.
the rights to the songs. I will say that it's going to be interesting to see, all of a sudden your song being used to sell products that maybe you are not comfortable endorsing, and you'll
Well,
have no control over that. And that would make me, as you would say, very tense.
yeah, well, and in here it took forever to the real heyday of this was about 2 years ago, and I think that's when Queen sold theirs. So
Okay.
they sold at the
Okay.
right top of the market. It's a little
Yeah.
it's dropped a little bit since then. And it's because uh David Gilmour and Roger Waters, the two main drivers of Pink Floyd, have been at odds for 40 years.
Yeah.
So they've had at odds over a lot of things. And so I think they had to work a lot of those details out. And let's face it, Roger Waters is kind of a world-class curmudgeon, among other things. So he's kind of a grumpy guy. But it got me to thinking, Kirby, as things often do. And I thought we'd do a little party in the back to end of the podcast today.
All right.
So
I'll do my best.
they sold for $400 million. That's a lot of money, right? I don't like to, Jade taught me this saying, that's a lot of mad cheddar, yo. So they sold a lot of, so I want to ask you, it's going to be either or. There's no wrong answers here, Kirby. There never is.
Yeah.
I want to know which song is more valuable from the Pink Floyd catalog.
Okay.
In your opinion, we're not going to get a dollar amount. That's not fair. I would never put you in a position, especially in Party in the Back, where you might stumble. That would be honestly, that would be disingenuous of me. So let's start with an easy one, I think. So again, which one's more popular?
Together.
The first, Interstellar Overdrive from the album Piper at the Gates of Dawn, or Set Controls for the Heart of the Sun from Saucer Full of Secrets?
The first one.
Interstellar Overdrive. Okay.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Very nicely done.
Yeah.
Okay. Run Like Hell. You know that song. Or Money.
Money for me.
I think you're correct.
Okay.
Us and Them.
Okay.
From Dark Side of the Moon, or Welcome to the Machine.
I liked Welcome to the Machine on that one.
Okay. I think close for me. I'm going to go with Us and Them.
Okay.
Breathe or Have a Cigar.
Breathe.
Okay. One of These Days or The Great Gig in the Sky.
One of These Days for me on that one.
Yep, I would agree. There's that slide guitar is amazing on that song. On the Turning Away or Pigs.
Though it's fun to hear you say Pigs, I'm going to go On the Turning Away.
Okay. Not Now, John or Time.
Time for me.
Okay. Young Lust or One Slip.
Probably One Slip.
Okay. Hey You or Run Like Hell.
Hey
and
You.
Apparently Run Like Hell's twice on here because I did this last minute.
Yeah, but I'm going to go Hey You. That's one of the quintessential ones for me.
Okay. Comfortably Numb or Another Brick in the Wall Part 2.
Oh. Okay, that's probably the hardest one you've given me. I don't think you have a wrong answer on this one. I'm going to go Comfortably Numb.
Wrong. No, absolutely. There's no wrong one. I just want to yell wrong. Okay, last one, Kirby. Shine On, You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 through 5.
Okay.
Or Shine On, You Crazy Diamond, parts 6 through 9.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I'm more of a starter guy, so I'll go 1 through 5.
All right. So, Kirby, you acquitted yourself very well on the Floydus Digitalis.
Okay.
And I'll tell you else who's going to help you acquit some custom merchandise well. And that's our good pals over at Seven Sourcing. That's right. They work directly with each distributor on brand strategy, product management, product sourcing, order management, quality control, compliance, and logistics. They completely demystify custom merchandise sourcing. Yeah, it takes a little bit longer. But I'm telling you, the wow and aha moments you're going to create is well worth it. So next time you want to take your great idea and turn it to something truly iconic for that brand, head over to sevensourcing.com, or heck, even better, email Russ Mogel at sales@sevensourcing.com. I guarantee you're not going to be sorry you did. Now, Kirby, you get yourself out there, since it's a nice autumn day there in Coshocton, and pumpkin spice latte this bitch up.
Absolutely not.